Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Berkeley County Board of Education meeting this Tuesday, December 13th, 2022. I call this meeting to order and I declare a quorum is present and that the media has been notified. Do we have a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
Made the motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion regarding the agenda?
Mr. Chairman, do you have any reason why the fixed price bid 670 contractor services was deleted from the Finance and Capital Planning Committee report?
I do not, sir. You can ask the Finance and Capital Planning Committee that question.
Okay, Dr. Henson, do you have any rationale as to why this price bid, fixed price bid?
You can ask that during a committee meeting. This was a motion to approve the agenda.
You didn't specify when I could ask it, sir.
Okay.
I'll be happy to ask it then.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
The agenda is approved. The next agenda item is approval of the minutes from the board meeting on November 15th, 2022. Do we have a motion?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
The motion is approved.
Nays.
Oh, any nays? I didn't hear any. Okay. All right, the next agenda item is executive session. Do we have a motion to enter into executive session for the stated purposes of discussion of release of teachers from employment contracts and appointment of assistant principals, discussion of negotiations incident to proposed contractual arrangements, and the receipt of legal advice regarding such contractual arrangements, including superintendent, attorneys, and lobbyists, legal update regarding a pending, threatened, or potential claim or other matters covered by the attorney-client privilege, 1 student attendance appeal, and 6 expulsion appeals.
I made the motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any nays? We are in executive session. Return to regular session.
Made the motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to return to regular session. I'll note for the record that no action was taken in executive session. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it. We are now in regular session. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Justice for all.
Amen.
We would now like to welcome Goose Creek High School's Creekapella group under the direction of Miss Emily Bowl as they perform a very merry mashup. Excellent job. Thank you all. Thank you to Ms. Bowl, Principal Shamika Washington, and that group of talented students for sharing. Next, I'd like to recognize Marrington Elementary and Cane Bay Elementary School for submitting the beautiful student artwork that has been displayed in the entryway for everyone's enjoyment. Thank you to Marrington Elementary's visual art teacher, Savannah Wood, and Principal Jennifer Thielman, along with Cane Bay Elementary's art teacher, Montana Marsh, and Principal Marissa Watson. Next on the agenda is the recognition of our presidential scholars. Ms. Heather Taylor.
Good evening.
Evening.
So a little bit about this recognition, the Presidential Scholar. Each year, Berkeley County School District has the opportunity to nominate 3 students to represent our district for the U.S. Presidential Scholar Award. The U.S. Presidential Scholars Program was established by President Lyndon Johnson in 1964. Since that time, the program has honored more than 8,000 high school seniors on the basis of outstanding scholarship. Initially, nominees were recognized based on SAT and ACT scores, but as the program evolved, candidates have been recognized in other ways. In fact, since 2013, chief state school officers have been invited to nominate candidates from their states for the academic general component category. And in 2016, outstanding students who demonstrated excellence in career and technical education were also included in the recognition. So this year, we are proud to announce our 3 nominees that will be recognized on the state level and will potentially move to the national level, which is very exciting. First, from Stratford High School, Emily Renee Tenay. Emily plans to continue her education in the medical field after graduation. Emily has served on the HOSA leadership team for the past 2 years and is currently the HOSA president at Stratford High School. She has participated in HOSA State Leadership Conference as well as the International HOSA Conference. Emily will also be certified as a CNA upon graduation. Emily, I want you to come on up here, please. And I believe were you a freshman when I was at Stratford? You were, yes. So this is for you, Emily, your certificate of recognition. And I would love at this point if mom, dad, sister, whomever you have with you, if we come on up and get some photos. And where is Ms. Diaz? Come on up. Why don't you go right up there? Our next nominee is from Philip Simmons High School, Isabella Marie Corbett. Isabella hopes to become an engineer after high school. Not only has she been involved in her community, but is an all-star varsity volleyball player, the editor of the school literary magazine, the senior class president, the National Honor Society treasurer, and the National Arts Honor Society vice president. Isabella, I don't know where you have time to do any. My goodness. Can you pack something else into your day? Come on up here. This is for you, sweetheart. Congratulations. Well done. Well done. Mom, Dad, anyone else with her? Mr. Buchholz? Possibly? Okay.
Awesome.
Last but not least, from Timberland High School, Tyler Jack Williams. Tyler wants to pursue a degree in mathematics after high school. He is a captain of the Timberland High School wrestling team and a member of the concert and jazz band. Tyler is competing in a wrestling tournament tonight and could not be with us.
Music and wrestling, that's pretty
I heard he's really good. But we are excited to recognize him for his outstanding academic and leadership skills. We are sincerely thrilled to recognize these students for their accomplishments. Congratulations to each and every one of you for all of your hard work and your dedication. It takes a lot. Congratulations.
The next agenda item is citizen comments. We have a lot of them tonight. In order to conduct the meeting in an orderly and efficient manner, we ask that you honor the following guidelines. Stakeholder comments are welcomed and encouraged. However, the board will not take immediate action on public comments at this meeting. Any person wishing to address the board must register prior to the meeting. Comments must be regarding programs, policies, or procedures. Comments regarding complaints against employees other than district-level executives or references to students other than the child of the speaker will not be heard in public session. Groups addressing the same topic should select one speaker. Because of the number of comments, comments will be limited to 1 minute per speaker this evening. The board chair reserves the right to allot additional time or halt public comments that do not adhere to the guidelines. Our first speaker this evening is Miss Kat Lowe.
Good evening. I'm Kat Lowe. I'm the physics teacher at Hanahan High School, and I'm the current president of the BCA, and I'm here to voice the concerns of our membership. We ask that this board prioritize itself on what impacts our students daily. You need to ensure that there is a highly qualified teacher in every classroom, and that every school is staffed with all the support staff that they need so our kids can be the best that they can be. At the district level, we've seen a flurry of hiring. At schools and classroom levels, little has changed. On average, we're short 10 staff members at the high schools, and at the middle schools, that number is 6. Some of these jobs have gone unfilled for a year. This means that we are stretched to do more to just maintain status quo. We are working beyond our 190-day teaching contract and beyond the descriptions of our jobs. Classroom sizes have ballooned, caseloads have doubled, and support staff have become jack-of-all-trades to fill the gaps. I'm honored and humbled to work with so many dedicated educators. This is too much to ask of these good people. If you agree with us, then please stand with us and text Berkeley to 48744 and tell this board to make this a priority.
The next speaker this evening is Leslie Bracken.
My name is Leslie Bracken, and I am a citizen of Berkeley County, a taxpayer and a voter. I have never been one of those people who resent paying taxes because I don't have a kid in the district. I'm happy for the opportunity of every child to receive a quality education. That is how they become productive members of society. A student graduating high school should either be college ready or career ready. Too many of the children in this state are neither. Our schools need money and teachers, and they need it now. A teacher in Berkeley County School District, too afraid to speak on her own, told me this: I spent hours at home doing schoolwork because of the time taken away at school covering for other teachers that have to be out. My wife and my children feel this stress with me and hate that I have no downtime. Most days I am up by 5 a.m. and do not go to bed until before midnight. Yet I do not even consider leaving the profession I am so passionate about. Between time spent on school and time spent caring for our home and family, I have no time to engage life, which causes me even more stress. Something needs to change. Text Berkeley to 48744.
The next speaker is Linda Vaughn.
Good evening. I speak not tonight to castigate you, but to beg all 9 of you to begin working together in transparency and with nonpartisanship for the good of our school system. Your November 15th decisions, made under a cloak of secrecy and dispatched with lightning speed, have made our district the object of pity, locally, statewide, and nationally. This is not a good look for our district, which already has 124 teacher openings. Since November 15th, an unusual number of teachers in our district are applying for positions in districts where school board members conduct themselves more openly. I am concerned, as you should be, about how our season of teacher recruitment will fare under our current negative reputation. You must now all begin to work together with transparency to repair the damage that has been done.
The next speaker is Miss Melinda Bell. Melinda Bell.
Hello, I'm Melinda Bell. I'm a member in Hanahan. I live there. I have a child in Hanahan Middle School, and I fully support what she just said. Everything there, yes. But I also want to talk to you about your banning of CRT, because, you know, like, your definition is incorrect, and it's going to ban a lot of historical facts. Our children deserve a truthful education. Judging from your definition, a lot of you, it seems like you've never actually been taught a course in CRT. One definition of CRT that is correct: it's an academic and legal framework that explains that systemic racism is a part of American society, from education and housing to employment and health care. Again, our children deserve a truthful education that even includes the shameful parts, because how can they know better and do better unless they know? The other thing I want to say is, if you need to take one locally, I'm going to send that to you all so you can do it. But again, support our teachers because they need it. I have so many teachers who are paying for students for food, for other needs. They need the support and the money, and I fully support them.
The next speaker is Miss Denise Scullett. Denise Scullett, I think is what it says. Probably. Denise Scullett, going once, going twice. Ansley Hammond.
Hello, I'm Ansley. I'm a resident of Hanahan, a graduate of Hanahan High School. Until recently, could have said I was a proud graduate from Berkeley County School District. I'm raising my family here, and I'm a daughter of Berkeley County educators. My mother, who taught for over 3 decades English in Berkeley County, would be ashamed and embarrassed by the actions of the majority of the board. We as taxpayers, parents, teachers, and friends of teachers and staff do not want hungry power decisions being made in secret. This was not done in an above reproach way. It was not done in the best interest of students and staff. If so, it would have been conducted in a different manner. To the banning of books, my mother, a woman deeply rooted in faith being the key phrase, believed in authentic learning, even if it makes people uncomfortable, because that is where learning occurs. You, the majority, have used faith, allowed faith to be used to divide and discriminate in our district, and it is not okay.
Rebecca Earhart. Rebecca Earhart.
Hi, I'm Rebecca Earhart. I have taught in a lot of places, Europe, California, South Carolina. I've had many principals, and Deion Jackson was the best of the best. And what you did is just shameful. It's shameful. You should be so ashamed of who you are for doing that. I can't believe it. It's disgusting and illegal, but that's for the courts to decide. But this current board, this 6, I am ashamed of you, and you should feel that shame. That's all I have to say.
Tony Leifridge.
Tory.
Oh, Tori, excuse me.
Good evening, board. Mr. Dixon. I have a different approach tonight. I had a conversation in the street. Some reason people see me and they want to talk about issues with the school district. Go figure. But a 20-year employee, 20-plus year employee, who lost his job because it was considered to be lazy, didn't really want to work, but his wife was dying. The day before his wife died, he received a call telling him he better get back to work if he wanted his job. His wife died the next day. Of course, he did not want to receive any of the calls who called for condolences. My issue is, or my question, I should say, is if we, in our last independent audit, I think earlier this year, the 2 sections that were dinged were HR, academics, and innovation, which were led by our current superintendent and deputy superintendent. So will that same grace for redemption and return be extended to all employees downstream, or is it just reserved for those at the top who can afford the power and connections? Thank you.
Next speaker is Kathy Clark. Kathy Clark.
Good evening. I am a 44-year veteran teacher from Berkeley County Schools. I retired in 2021, and I taught music, and I served as a district's arts coordinator. For each of those 44 years, I traveled more than 50 miles a day to get to school. And I didn't mind the drive, knowing that I was going to a district that was more like a family than an entity focused on politics or personal gain. From day one, I knew Berkeley was where I wanted to make my work home. I had unique opportunities in my year in Berkeley County, watching it grow in numbers and also in opportunities provided to students and also to teachers. I was able to witness a district where everyone worked together for the good of students. Teachers and student opinions were sought and they were heard. I watched district staff work hand in hand with teachers and children. Berkeley County was a district where everyone worked together and did what needed to be done. It was a family where everyone was valued. Do teachers feel that today?
Thank you, ma'am.
Would
Your
college
time has
graduates feel
expired.
that? Thank you.
The next speaker is Judy Hammett.
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Judy Hammett, and I am also a proud retiree of the Berkeley County School District. I worked in Berkeley County my entire career, which was 34 years. 25 of those years were in human resources. Like many staff members, I came to Berkeley County because of its reputation. It was a reputation, like Kathy said, of a family. It was a reputation of support for teachers and staff. We always put students first. As a staff member, I was so proud to call Berkeley County my district. As a member of the HR team, it was always a fun time to go out recruiting because everybody wanted to come to Berkeley County because of its excellent reputation. In the last month, the reputation of my district has become tarnished by the actions of the majority of the board members. Politics and political ideology appear to have taken over a school system that has always been known to put students and staff first. I'm here tonight to ask you to consider the effects of your actions. The reputation of the school district is at stake here. School leadership is built on trust and respect, and without these elements, staff morale suffers, teacher recruitment suffers, and teacher retention suffers greatly. And it sounds like you can't afford to lose any more teachers.
Thank you, ma'am. Your time has
Your staff
expired.
members are your most valuable resource. I urge you to show respect for their professionalism, their professional judgments in regard to curriculum and instructional materials, and their decision-making, and that you follow the policies and procedures of the district when making hiring and termination decisions. Thank you.
The next speaker is Karina Kulani.
Good evening. Good evening. I believe that we can all agree that education is one of the fundamental pillars of one's life. When the decision on November 15th to exempt significant parts of history was made, it was also the decision to deprive the children of this county of an adequate education. The ban on critical race theory, which is frequently misidentified and incorrectly defined, fails the teachers who are now put at risk for teaching the history of this nation. The students who will now be unfamiliar with the exploitation and oppression that has occurred throughout history will later in life be unable to identify the institutional injustice that continue to thrive. It is your responsibility and your actions right now that will determine the success of future generations. I'm here to remind you tonight that it's up to you whether you leave the legacy of nurturing progress or the legacy of reinforcing injustice. Thank you.
The next speaker is Adrian Lett.
Hello. I'm also going to address the critical race theory ban, starting with an example. Most of the houses that were demolished for the 1969 construction of I-26 and 526 were in the Liberty Park and Highland Terrace neighborhoods. Predominantly black communities were targeted because certain people wanted to continue segregation. The highway interchange will soon be expanded. More homes in these neighborhoods will be demolished, and most are still owned by black residents. This project is not inherently racist. Homes are not being acquired solely because the residents are black or because of any laws explicitly targeting black people, but it is a consequence of a racially motivated decision made 50 years ago. This is not CRT. This is strictly history and its impacts. This does not imply that children are guilty for these actions. It simply makes them aware of past failures to consider unintended or intended unfair impacts on any particular race, and encourages them to consider these nuances when they become the next generation to make similar decisions. Banning CRT is dangerous and discourages the discussion of scenarios like this, but discussions like this are essential for the betterment of society as a whole.
The next speaker is Cindy Fisk. Cindy Fisk.
Hi, good evening. Good evening, Chair McQuillan and the board members. As a Berkeley County resident and a retired teacher of 30 years, I'm reading a statement posted by an outsider who's analyzing your actions. Why, you may ask? Because your actions are being analyzed by many, especially since the November 15th meeting. A school board is not a place for rash actions or revenge politics. It is a deliberative body that is nonpartisan. It is all about our children and not meant to be dominated and abused by members with an agenda. School board members have a responsibility to act as educational role models for our children. The educational lesson given to our children by these new board members was an abject failure in how to deal with controversial issues and how to treat school professionals. Instead of showing our children how to carefully investigate, review, and discuss school topics before making decisions, these members gave our children a lesson in how to take shortcuts through bullying.
The next speaker is Lynn Kroll. Lynn Kroll. Lynn Kroll. No? No Lynn Kroll? Dana Ball.
Good evening. I'm speaking today as a parent and graduate of Berkeley County Schools. I am a teacher of vocational courses, but not in Berkeley County. Critical thinking skills are something my children learn in their classes, and I teach this in my classes. There are even teachers in this room that taught me to think critically. Let's try some critical thinking now. The last board meeting began with firing the acting superintendent, whom only had positive reviews, and immediately electing a new superintendent without conducting a search and allowing the public notice. Now, using those critical thinking skills Berkeley County Schools taught me, how does one immediately replace a superintendent without first meeting outside of this body? I emailed all of you regarding the underhanded and unethical matters that occurred during the last meeting, and I received one singular response, which was Mr. Hinson. He replied, and I quote, "Sorry that we don't agree with what the appropriate actions that should have been taken. There's so much you don't know about this entire situation, and you will probably never know." Why?
The next speaker, I think it's Don Fromel.
Good morning, or good afternoon, evening. My name is Dr. Dan Frummel. I have 2 children in Berkeley County Schools. I'm here today to express my disappointment in this newly appointed school board. You guys ran on a platform of transparency and putting decision-making back in the hands of parents. Instead, you continue to meet in private and make decisions in private without involving the community. You fired a superintendent and hired a new one without any community input. How is that transparent? You also said you would put power back in the hands of parents. Instead, you gave it to Moms of Liberty, a national radical conservative group. Berkeley County residents, that's who you need to be listening to. Put your political ambitions aside and focus on our children, okay? Stop messing with our kids, stop messing with our future.
Next speaker is David Lafayette.
First of all, we need to understand what we're dealing with, a system run by white supremacy. Now, this is a well-organized, well-funded network, and I know this because for 8.5 years in the military, this network is what we studied. And what they do in our school system is a mixture of cultural repression, cultural fragmentation, and assimilation. So they're basically using the native boarding school strategy against the school system today. Now, this is a bit higher than CRT. I'm not saying give up on CRT, but we also need to get together right after this, get our little network that's already challenging the system, and start evaluating what's already in place. Keep pushing CRT. Teachers, we need y'all information because y'all in there, y'all see what's going on. We know they're erasing our history, our culture, so now we gotta counter what they're doing. We just gotta get together, get our minds together. We can challenge all this they're doing, but we gotta do it together. So after this, we all get together, figure this out. That's all I got.
Marcia Hazel. Marcia Hazel.
Okay, it's Marcia Hassel. And I do want to address the audience. I'm very encouraged My son is 33 years old. I have never been to a school board meeting. My husband has. He is a dentist in the area. I have been in the schools. I've done some substitute teaching, but after November 15th, I was so angry. I was very disappointed in the manner in which this body is conducting itself. I've been out again in the schools. I've been in the business world. We don't do decisions like this. These parents deserve more. I started school in 1959, okay? So you do the math, all right? I went through the public school system. I graduated from a top university, the University of California at Berkeley, at Howard University. My husband went to dental school at Howard University. These parents deserve more, and I deserve more. So I'm expecting this body to behave in a way that represents these parents in this community.
Next speaker is Brittany Gary.
I'm speaking to express concerns for many who do not feel comfortable stating concerns publicly. I do not represent all teachers, but I am echoing the voices and thoughts of many within our district, not just teachers. As employees, there are many that lack trust and confidence in our board right now to lead this district. No school board can effectively lead without the complete support of its stakeholders who have entrusted you with their support. As one of you responded in an email to me, decisions should be made based on relationships and trust. As the email states, first there must be a relationship, and then trust needs to be gained or lost. Trust has been lost, and regardless of how people align, it must be recognized that this has created chaos in our school community and our local communities, a chaos that can't be ignored. Your decisions are always very calculated, and I know that you weighed the risk and benefits, and I'd be extremely grateful for the answers to the following questions in writing. What is your plan to restore the relationship between the school board and the employees in this district? What is the plan of action when it comes to instilling trust between board members, district employees, teachers, and staff? And what is your plan to begin reversing the culture that has been created for so many employees due to the chaos? Every decision comes with consequences, and healing will never come without a cost. What is the plan?
The next speaker is Nancy Corbin.
Hello. In our recent election, those that were running went door to door, went to meetings in communities, civic meetings, all types of opportunities to talk with the community and get their views. And obviously, those community members elected the people that are sitting in front of us. The people, those people that you work for, that the school district works for, that the teachers work for. And they chose you. And I would like to thank you for the courage of your convictions, because you were given direction by the people. Thank you.
Our final speaker of the evening is Mr. Josh Romine.
What was that name?
Josh Romine. Josh Romine. He's a pastor on Columbus Ferry.
Good evening. My name is Josh Romine, and I'm on staff with a local church, and I serve as a volunteer at Philip Simmons Schools. I just would like to make a statement regarding my love and support for Dr. Deion Jackson and Dr. Anthony Dixon. Deion Jackson is a good man. He's a great educator and leader. and deeply committed to the teachers, families, students, and even local ministers, as I saw of Berkeley County. And like many of us here, I am discouraged by the process that led to his termination. Anthony Dixon, likewise, is a good man. He's a great educator and leader, and he is also deeply committed to the teachers, families, and students of Berkeley County. I've known and worked with and been Dr. Dixon's friend since his days at Philip Simmons. I would encourage us all toward these next steps in the coming days, to pray for Dr. Jackson, to send him words of encouragement, as I know many of you have already done, and to ask him how we can come alongside him for support. And likewise, to pray for Dr. Dixon and send him words of encouragement and figure out how we can support him in this new position. And then to pray for us as a county and district that we would do what is best for our families, teachers, and the next generation. Thank you.
All right, the next agenda item is any actions required from executive session, and we will start with student attendance appeal number 1. Do we have a motion? I make a motion to deny the appeal of student attendance appeal, student number 1.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it by a vote of 9-0. We'll now start with student expulsion appeals. Do we have a motion in the matter of student number 1?
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the appeal for student number 1 and that we have them go to the alternative school.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to grant the appeal of student number 1 and assign the child to the alternative school. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it by a vote of 9-0. In the matter of student number 2, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we also accept the appeal for student number 2 and send him to the alternative school.
We have a second.
Second. I'm sorry, I defer to Ms. Bradley.
We have a motion by Ms. Littleton, a second by Ms. Bradley. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it by a vote of 9-0. In the matters of students number 3 and 4, which we'll hear together.
Mr. Chair, I move that students 3 and 4, we grant the appeal and assign the students to the alternative school.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Walford, a second by Ms. Littleton. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Ayes have it by a vote of 8-1. We have a motion in the matter of student number 5.
Mr. Chair, I move that we accept the appeal for student number 5 and also send him to the alternative school.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Littleton, a second by Ms. Bradley. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Nay.
Motion carries 7-2. Do we have a motion in the matter of student number 6?
Mr. Chair, I move to accept the appeal for student number 6 and send him to the alternative school.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Littleton, a second by Ms. Walford. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Nay.
Motion carries 7-2. We'll now entertain other motions out of executive session. Ms. Littleton, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the personnel recommendations of the administration as discussed in executive session for the current school year.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Littleton, a second by Ms. Walford. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it by a vote of 9-0. Ms. Walford?
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Lindy Valachuk as the Assistant Principal of Berkeley Middle School with a starting date of December 14th, 2022.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Walford, a second by Ms. Littleton. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it by a vote of 9-0. Congratulations, Ms. Valachek. If you have any family with you, you can bring them up and we'll get a picture.
Rocking the Berkeley blue.
Ms. Littleton?
Mr. Chairman, I move to accept the recommendation of the administration to name Mackenzie Fortner as the assistant principal at Devon Forest Elementary School with a starting date of January 2nd, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Littleton, a second by Ms. Walford. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it by a vote of 9-0. Congratulations, Ms. Fortner. If you have any family or principals, yep, bring them on up and let's get some photos. Ms. Walford?
Mr. Chairman, I move to ratify the district's prior engagement of White and Story LLC, Clement Rivers LLP, Duff Freeman Lyon LLC, Sale Galloway LLC, Parker Poe Adams Bernstein LLP, and Kyle Michael Law in accordance with Policy BA, which requires that all specialized counsel hired by the district's general counsel be approved by the board.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Walford, a second by Ms. Littleton. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Ayes have it by a vote of 8-1. I move to terminate the engagement of Kyle Michael Law Firm as the district's registered lobbyist effective January 31st, 2023.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it by a vote of 9-0. Mr. Ramsey.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the employment agreement for Dr. Anthony Dixon as presented in executive session and authorize Chairman Matt Quillen to execute the agreement on behalf of the district.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a couple of comments.
Okay.
I'm very concerned about the hiring practice or lack of transparency in the hiring practice or lack thereof in the hiring of Dr. Dixon without a superintendent search that has traditionally and almost exclusively been required by policy and in terms of allowing the public to have a voice in that decision. I'm very disturbed over this. I'm also concerned that Dr. Dixon was hired by the board on November the 15th, and it is until today that we are voting on a contract. That, to me, seems unprecedented for someone to work for a full month without a contract. And I'd also like to, my question also is, at what point in time did actually the deliberations of this contract actually begin? I'm very concerned about that time frame as well. The final concern that I have was basically adjudicated today because Dr. Dixon has now, today, received an endorsement for his superintendency. So he is certified by the state of South Carolina to be superintendent, and that action occurred today. Today. That concludes my remarks.
Any further discussion?
I also have a discussion in regards to salary.
Yes, ma'am.
What BCSD salary scale in which we use to determine his salary?
Say that again?
What BCSD salary scale did we determine his salary?
Based on what the past superintendent was paid and what other superintendents in the area are paid.
That's not something that is in writing here for BCSD.
I don't think we have a salary scale or have had one ever for superintendents, ma'am.
So basically, it was the superintendent stating what it is that he wanted in regards to salary.
No, it was based on what the past superintendent was making and what other neighboring districts pay their superintendents. Any other discussion?
Let me just stipulate also that it was common knowledge that Dr. Dixon's salary would be as it is in the contract, and that was stated the date that he was hired on November 15th. So there had to be some deliberations and some agreement between the district and the incoming superintendent prior to his hiring. So the amount at that time is the same as what is actually being endorsed tonight.
Any further discussion?
I just have one. I'm curious in that the day after he was selected, contracted, that he was able to select a deputy superintendent. If I remember correctly, a couple months ago, Mr. Jackson asked for a deputy superintendent, and at that time, I was not on the board, but the board told him that there was no funds. So he was willing to give up that position. How is it now that we have funds for a deputy superintendent?
I understand due to vacancies, it's a budget-neutral
Wait a
position
minute,
now.
I couldn't hear.
I said because of vacancies within the district office, it's now a budget-neutral position.
But he was willing to give up a position. So there was funds available at that time because he was willing to give up positions that he was also asking for. That same night, he asked for a deputy superintendent and 2 other positions. He was willing to forego the deputy, the 1 other superintendent for that position. So all of a sudden, money comes available. I just don't see it. Ms. Ashley probably could explain it better than you could, but
No doubt.
just the mere fact that he was able to select one, and again, my question would be, similar to Dr. Wigfall, the salary that this particular deputy superintendent is earning, is it equivalent to his? What is it equivalent to? And I know we're not going to talk about personnel issues, but give me some idea of what it is.
I'd like to
I don't know
also,
what a deputy superintendent makes,
if
I'm
if I
sorry.
can have the floor again, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I'd like to expound upon the remark you just made. And Mr. Jackson, and I remember vividly indicating and stipulating to this board, to the prior board, that all 5 of the positions that he requested were revenue neutral, which meant there weren't any more funds that is going to be required to hire all of those positions. However, only 2 were authorized by the board, 3 were not. So how is it that 3 months ago, we don't have enough money and it's revenue neutral, but now we can do anything we want to with this new board? I'm just saying it doesn't add up to me.
All right, any other comments regarding Mr. Jackson or Mr. Dixon's contract, which is what's the motion on the table?
But a part of that is the deputy superintendent. He was allowed to select a deputy superintendent as a part of his contract. I don't remember, Mr. Gaskin, if that was mentioned in there as well. So clarify that for me. How is he allowed to just
He's going to
pick?
discuss that in the superintendent's
But we're-
report.
we're gonna
That's the
ratify
agenda
a
item y'all
contract, though.
requested. Yeah, that's not in his contract. Any other comments regarding his contract, and then we can address that during the superintendent's
The
report?
contract does not allow for him to select the deputy superintendent, does it?
No, the board's motion did.
What motion? We had executed
The motion that we voted on at the last meeting.
I don't remember. I need to look back at those minutes.
All right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, may I make one final comment?
Sure, yes, sir.
Thank you. Due to the way this transpired and the fact that it was so quick, and it seems improper, to say the least, I cannot support Dr. Dixon's contract, so I will be voting no.
All right, I'll now call the question. All in favor of approving the employment agreement for Dr. Anthony Dixon as presented in executive session, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Is that 3 nays? Okay, 6-3 vote. All right, the next item on the agenda is temporary committee assignments. We do not need to assign temporary committee assignments because everyone is here. We will now recess for the committee meetings. The first committee, and I'll remind everyone, is Academics and Innovation. Kathy Littleton, you chair that committee. Mr. Barrow and myself are on the committee with you.
I'm calling the Committee on Academics and Innovation to order. I declare there's a quorum of committee members present and know that the media has been given proper notice pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Motion passes 3-0. The first item on the agenda is the Head Start Budget Expenditure Report on October 2022 and Head Start Credit Report on October 2022. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Move to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, nay. Motion's approved 3-0. Second item on the agenda is the Fall 2022 Textbook Adoptions First Reading. Ms. Heather Taylor, you are recognized.
Good evening, Committee Chair Ms. Littleton, Superintendent Dixon, Board Chair Mr. McQuillan, and school board members. The South Carolina Department of Education has approved funding for multiple instructional material adoptions. The Academics and Innovation Department then organized BCSD committees of teachers selected by their principals to review the new options available from the State Department. After a thorough examination to ensure alignment with standards and instructional models, each school submitted a vote with its selection. Currently, the textbooks in use are from previous adoptions. According to Board Policy IFAA, the adoption of textbooks in the Berkeley County School District will be made by committees composed of classroom teachers, subject area coordinators, and directors, based upon the recommendation of principals within the district. The adoption process was supervised by the Director of Curriculum Instruction, as well as the Chief Academics and Innovation Officer. All textbooks must be approved by the board. We bring to you for consideration the following textbooks for first committee reading. They are for science, high school physical education, and career and technical education. And I believe that all of you have a list of all of those textbooks. I don't think there's a need for me to read through all of those for you.
Thank you. What's the pleasure of the committee?
Move to approve.
Second. We have a motion and a second.
I got a
Any-
little bit of discussion.
I'm
My
sorry.
understanding is they're going to link, eventually there'll be a link through our website too to where the public can go on and see all of these approved textbooks. I know generally we have them
Sir.
here at the board meeting for folks to look at, but the Department of Education's going to do something where everybody can see them too and provide input as well.
That is my understanding, sir.
Okay.
Was there a list of supplemental materials that went along with each of those books online, or is that something that will not be online? The supplemental material that goes along with each textbook?
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to ask for Jen Crowley to come up here. She's actually the Director of Academics and Innovation.
Good evening. So the State Department does give us a list of textbooks that we can choose from adoption. Each of those textbooks of companies have textbooks as well as some supplemental items that come with the adoption. Every textbook company is different based upon what they offer.
Can you give me some idea what any supplemental material will look like, other than the workbooks, teacher edition, student edition?
Sometimes they come with like little readers, like in elementary school for science, they have little readers that teachers can use. But every textbook company is different. Every adoption is different.
A number of those books are in this room still, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
so
thank
they
you.
will be up for the public review. And we do have feedback sheets that the public can fill out, and they can review each textbook, provide feedback while we're going through the adoption process. And they do have access online. Many textbooks have online capabilities as well.
Okay.
But it's not a blanket thing.
Right.
Every textbook company does it a little differently.
So is some of those in the back do have the supplemental materials accompanying them now?
Yes, and we can provide you with the recommendations that we are presenting tonight that the schools have chosen. We'll provide you a list of what is coming with those in the adoption. So we can do that and send it to you this week.
Thank
And
you.
if you have any questions, you just reach out.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Call a question. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Against, nay? Passes 3-0. This time I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the committee meeting so that the Finance and Capital Planning Committee meeting can begin.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay? It passes.
I'm calling the Committee on Finance and Capital Planning to order. I declare there's a quorum of committee members present and note that the media has been given proper notification pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act. Do we have a motion to approve this agenda?
So moved, Mr. Chair.
I'll second it. Thank you. Do we have a second?
You seconded it.
He seconded it? Mr. Banks? We have a motion.
Did he second it?
Have a second. Any discussion? All in favor of this motion respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay. The motion is approved by a vote of 3-0. The first agenda is 2021-22 financial audit presentation. Ms. Smith, you are recognized.
Good evening, Chairman Henson, Superintendent Dixon, and board members. Before I invite our speakers up this evening, I would like to publicly thank the finance staff for their hard work and dedication to ensure that our 21-22 audit was completed on time. Tonight we have with us from Elliott Davis. They will be presenting the results of our financial audit to us. We have Tim Grow, he's a shareholder, and the two senior managers are Ford Blanchard and Kim Davis. If you'd like to join me, please.
Use this right here.
Here we go. There you are.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here tonight. I'm Ford Blanchard. I'm Senior Audit Manager with Elliott Davis. Tim Grow, who's the audit shareholder, and then Kim Davis, who's another senior manager with the firm. So we're here tonight. Just a brief disclaimer there. You can go to the next, boss man. Objective of our discussion tonight, audit objectives and opinion, reporting required under governmental auditing standards. We'll go over some brief financial statement highlights, some accounting matters, compliance reporting, and then at the end we'll have some questions, but feel free to stop me throughout the presentation. So the objective of our audit is to express an opinion on the financial statements. We express an unmodified opinion on the financial statements, which is the highest level of assurance that we can provide. And the following slides are going to outline some discussion, provide some color on that process. So as part of our audit kickoff each year, which typically starts in May, it was a long time ago to get to this point tonight, we have conversations with management, we have conversations with the board chair, and we outline our risk assessment process. This is our 6th year doing the audit for the district, so we like to rotate in new people, new faces into the process to make sure we're getting a fresh set of eyes, which we were able to do this year from our team perspective. From there, we assign a materiality to conduct our audit. Basically, that's a number that's going to affect the end users of the statements, and we drive our audit assessment and determination of accounts and balances that we're going to test off of that number. So we like to say we can't select every transaction for testing, but every transaction is certainly subjected to testing. Our responsibility under the standards is to the board. So we work for the board, and we work with Ashley and her team as part of management through the process. Significant accounting policies are outlined in Note 1 to the financial statements. There was a new accounting policy this year which was adopted, GASB 87, which was related to leases. That adoption did not have a significant impact or a material impact to the financial statements for 6/30/2022. Throughout the statements which you've been provided, littered with judgments and estimates. Some of the key estimates throughout the financials are depreciation on capital assets, your allowance for property tax receivables, and then the estimates related to pension and OPEB liabilities. Financial statements disclosures also outlined in the back of the report after the financial statements. We review those to ensure that they're clear, neutral, consistent. Can a user of the financials pick up your statements, go to the disclosure, and have a good understanding of what's going on in terms of the financials for the district. Uncorrected misstatements, we did have a couple of those this year. One of those was related to leases. The impact just wasn't material, and we were able to pass on those adjustments. A lot of the leases at the district are related to copiers, postage meters, things of that nature, and the administrative burden of tracking each one of those agreements to record on the government-wide statements was greater than the benefit received, and the fact that the adjustment was not material, we were able to pass on that. The other past adjustment was related to some construction expenditures which were incurred before 6/30. Which were not recorded. Again, those weren't material, so we weren't required to record those. There were also 2 corrected misstatements this year, one of which related to investment valuations. The bond market was a little volatile during the period, so there was some difference of opinions on certain valuations. So we made an adjustment related to that, and then also we made an adjustment related to some IRS subsidy receivables on bond interest payments. Management representation. So at the end of the process, and it's at the back of your board report, we're required to get a litany of representations from management who was present during the year. So Ashley will sign that letter, and there's a copy of that in the back of your board report. We would be required to disclose to the board or have a conversation with the board on any disagreements with management or any significant issues we discussed with management. We did not have any, so we did not have any of those conversations. So some brief financial statement highlights here. For general fund, total fund balance increased by $20 million to $124 million. Unassigned fund balance was $123 million at year end. which represented 36% of FY22 budgeted expenditures. There was a 15% requirement that the state had, a maximum threshold, but that had been waived for the past several years. The state recommended minimum fund balance is at least 8.33%, which represents a month of expenditures. And I know Mr. Barrow always asks this, so I got it up there for you this year. That's approximately $27.3 million. Some other fund highlights: federal and state grants and programs totaled approximately $50.7 million during the year for 60 programs. That was up from $35.7 the prior year. Obviously, these funds contain requirements that are supposed to be met for the use of those funds. Most of these don't carry over fund balance, and any unspent funds must be returned or carried over to the next year. Just as a reminder, due to the adoption of GASB 84 last year, student activity, pupil activity funds are accounted for in special projects funds for the prior 2 years, which is a change from how it's been presented in the past. EIA funds equal expenditures and revenues of $23 million. There's no fund balance for these programs. Any unspent funds are either returned or carry over based on the provisions of the program. And then this slide here, just wanted to kind of point out federal expenditures which are subjected to our single audit procedures. There's a total of $75 million in federal expenditures for the current year, and you can see the drastic increase from the prior years, and was related to increases in school food service programming and then a lot of the ESSER funds from 2 and 3 that are starting to be expended. Some other financial statement items: total outstanding debt at the district was $418 million as of June 30, 2022. That was a decrease from the prior year of about $55 million related to principal payments. Total capital assets, $637 million as of June 30, 2022. It's an increase from the prior year. We had about $38 million in additions related to the new K-12 school, and then some roofing projects that are being funded with ESSER money, and that was offset by depreciation expense. At year end, there was about $30 million in construction in progress, mainly related to that K-12 school. So accounting matters. We evaluated leases at the district for GASB 87, which basically would have put a lease asset and a lease liability on the books, and like we did discuss, we determined that wasn't material. This one here, GASB 96, subscription-based information technology arrangements, we're basically going to put on the balance sheet for your government-wide statements a right to use the subscription asset, and then an offsetting subscription liability related to any information technology curriculum contracts the district is in over a year period. So obviously there's quite a lot of contracts that the finance department is going to have to review and evaluate under this standard for next year. And we believe that this one will have an impact to next year's financials on the balance sheet for the government-wide statements. So compliance reporting, there's 2 other opinions required from our audit. First is under governmental auditing standards. This is a test and evaluation of district's internal controls with compliance and laws and regulations. This is not an opinion on the district's internal controls. We did not have any compliance findings for FY22. Our second opinion is related to the district's internal controls over federal awards and expenditures. This is required under the Single Audit Act. It's an opinion over compliance over major federal programs. So this year we had the pleasure of testing 3, ESSER, IDEA, and Head Start. Usually we get away with testing a couple each year, but due to that increase in funding, we had to select 3. And we had no findings in any of these audits over these programs, and the district is a low-risk auditee. And with respect to those 2 reports, our opinions were unmodified. So the summary, clean audit, unmodified opinion for the financial statements, and the district's in sound financial condition as of June 30, 2022. So really appreciate, Ashley, your team's help through the process. Like I said, it started back in May, and we just wrapped up a few weeks ago. So appreciate it.
We'll have to with the ESSER stuff, there's tons of additional compliance requirements that the district had to adhere to. We've had some districts that didn't perform quite as well. Happy to know Berkeley did a great job. It's all the changes in GASB right now are very onerous. As Ford said, we would have been happy to book the new lease standard, but we work with Ashley, and the amount of time and effort and money it would cost to implement that standard at this point, we just didn't see the benefit and why the district would want to spend the money to do that. 96 is going to be a different thing. We'll probably have to spend some extra money to make sure we get that booked correctly. All this stuff is very complicated, and you have really great staff that really kind of worked with us to get it all accounted for appropriately. So we're very, very happy with the results of the audit.
So basically, what I heard you say, clean audit. I'm being an old country boy, I don't know about CPA stuff.
Yep.
I can't even spell it. No discrepancies whatsoever did you see?
Absolutely not.
Okay, thank you.
As we said, we did have a couple of the minor adjustments that didn't give
always
rise to
find
being
something.
posted yet. So
But I meant serious. Thank you.
nothing.
I'd like to make a couple of comments. I'd like to commend you fellows for doing a great job. We extended that contract, and it was well worth it. You've done a great job for 7 years. Also, I'd like to commend Ashley Smith, our CFO, and her staff for a tremendous job. And also, the prior two former boards, because if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Smith, you let me know if I'm incorrect, I believe for at least 6 years, maybe 7 consecutive years, this board has, and the prior boards have had fund balances. Instead of going in the hole, we've actually exceeded the expenditures, and we've actually increased, and I think this year it was about $20 million additionally, that the board that was claimed to be liberal spenders, the last board that was claimed to be liberal spenders actually saved $20 million. Now, having said that, there's some reasons why, because as you know, we've got some teacher shortages, and we allocated some funds for those vacancies or for those positions, and they weren't filled. So that's part of the reason. Don't give all the accolades, but that's actually bad news that we didn't have enough teachers, right? But it's good news that the fiscal responsibility and the conservatism of the prior boards have made sure that we are financially sound with a tremendous audit. And from Elliott Davis, and I commend Ms. Smith again, and the prior boards. I'm not going to just say this board because we're fledgling. We're just starting. But the last 2 boards have done a tremendous job in conservative fiscal responsibility.
Ms. Smith, I'd like to thank you also, and I know the rest of these board members feel that way, that you've done a wonderful job out here. And troubled times with all the things that's happened this year, last year, it's been very difficult for all of us, and I'm fully aware of that. That information financial audit presentation was basically information only. There's no motion on that at the time. But now I'd like to move on to a second agenda item, and that's out-of-state travel. Ms. Smith, we want you to continue sitting right there where you are.
I will stay right here.
What's the pleasure of the committee? Go ahead.
Thank you. Administration is requesting approval of out-of-state travel as presented on board.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion that we accept the out-of-state travel recommendations submitted by Ms. Ashley Smith.
Thank you, and I'll second that. Any questions? Nope. Okay, move on. Call for the question. You gotta wake me up. I'm a country boy. Call for the question?
You got to call the question.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion to accept the out-of-state travel?
Got a
motion.
Got a
You
motion, a
guys-
second. Just got to say who, figure out who the ayes are.
Yay. Yay.
Yeah. Okay, Mr. McQuillan.
Hey. Am I finished with that one then?
Yeah.
Any
You gotta
opposed?
get them to, yeah, you gotta, all in favor.
All in favor, I'm sorry. It's going to take me a while to get used to this.
Aye.
Okay, I'll say in favor also. Thank you. Okay.
So 3-0 passes.
Okay.
It is now 3-0. It passes, even with my incompetence. The third agenda item is a Head Start incentive. Ms. Smith, would you like to explain that one to us?
Yes, sir. There are 2 memos in regards to the Head Start program uploaded to Board Docs. Each memo discusses the program's issues with staff retention and the number of vacancies that need to be filled. The Office of Head Start issued an information memorandum recommending financial incentives to recruit new staff and retain existing staff. Per the information memorandum, the Office of Head Start strongly encourages financial incentives to all Head Start staff. Monies will be used from the American Rescue Plan funds and COVID-19 funds. The board did previously approve a $625 stipend for Head Start that was paid earlier this month. The funds do expire in March of 2023, and administration is recommending a $1,778 stipend to each of the 75 Head Start employees to be paid in February of 2023.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Give a motion. Give a motion.
Did I have a motion? I'm sorry, first, let's start that one.
Motion.
Got it. Do we have a second? I'll second it.
There's no motion yet? Not that I heard.
Mr. Baker moved.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Motion.
Motion.
All right. So all in favor of this, is there any questions? I wouldn't know the answers anyway, to be honest with you. All in favor of this motion, respond by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Vote was 3-0. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn this committee meeting so that the Human Resources Committee meeting can begin. Do we have a second?
Excuse me, Dr. Henson, I had a question.
Yes.
That I addressed the board chair earlier on the agenda, on the approval of the agenda. Earlier, I looked at the agenda. There was an item under your committee.
Yes, sir.
And it was a fixed price bid, 670 contractor services. It was deleted from your committee. So I was wondering if you could shed some light on why that was deleted.
Yes, sir. As the chairperson of it, one of the questions that I have is I'd like to know what's going on with stuff that we're in. I'm not a rubber stamp. I'm not going to be. And I didn't have enough information on that. It just came up and appeared on my agenda. And I've got to have some information before I'm going to spend these taxpayers' money, whether it's right or wrong.
With due respect, though, Dr. Henson, this item, as I understand it, was processed through the procurement system with Ms. McMortar vetting the company that bid, and they were going to award a particular bid to a particular company. So it seems to me that to remove something from the agenda, only the chairman of the board, who is dutifully responsible, solely responsible for the agenda,
Yes, sir.
can remove something from the agenda, not a committee chair. So that's why I asked the chair earlier, because Policy BA strictly gives the board chair that responsibility. In addition, the superintendent can also have that access or that authority when granted by the board chair, but no other board member can take something off the agenda just because they don't think it's the right thing to do. So
He did raise that he wanted more information, and that's why it's removed. I wanted him to explain that, though. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, wanting more information before he votes on something.
But it was a process that could have been discussed in committee, and the objection coming out of the committee in discussion. It should not have been either tabled or removed from the, because it was a procurement code that was followed precisely by Ms. Abramson. And the contractor, as I understand it, was informed that the board was going to vote on it tonight. So the contractor is probably wondering what in the world happened. It was taken off probably without their knowledge and understanding as why.
Well, if the contractor's watching, the committee needed more information, we will address it at the next meeting.
The policy was violated, Mr. Chairman. You did not take that off the agenda, did you?
Yes, I did, sir.
You told me earlier that you had no knowledge of it.
I said I want him to explain his reason in the committee.
No, this video is very explicit.
Dave,
I have
we're not
good
gonna get
memory.
up here and bicker.
You said that you had no knowledge of it. I am speaking. Yes. I asked the chairman if he had any knowledge of it. He said no. He did not take it off the agenda, but to address it to you during your committee, and that's exactly what I did.
So you know the answer now, right? Not enough information.
So what information were you looking for? Because what I saw was at least a start. There were some numbers missing because there was something on board docs that gave the information Ms. Abramson or somebody put on there. So I read through that information. So I was looking as well to discuss that motion tonight.
But see, the problem was, just like you just got finished saying you didn't have the information, I didn't have the information. It wasn't given to me. I was told that I couldn't have it.
But the numbers would have been discussed had Ms. Abramson made her report. I believe so. She usually does give an amount as to what the contract is worth.
Thank you.
Okay.
Called a question on the adjournment.
Policy was violated, ladies and gentlemen. The policy of removing that agenda item was violated. Only the board chair could do that.
All the questions for the, you gotta get an adjournment.
I think you've got a motion and a second to adjourn. You just need to call the question.
All in favor of
Who made the motion?
All in favor of adjournment?
All in favor of adjournment, say aye.
Aye.
You gotta vote too, and then
You
it's
gotta-
over.
Yeah, y'all got to vote and then it's over.
So, could I have a vote, please?
Any opposed?
I'm lost.
Are you in
I'm
favor of
totally
adjournment?
lost.
Are you in favor of
He, as
adjournment?
the chair, Mr. McQuillan, does not understand how to even carry a motion, and you selected him as chair of this committee. Now, the ladies were very nice. They wrote it out very clearly.
Oh, yeah.
He can't follow it, and you made him chair. So, Dr. Henson, will you please repeat the motion that is to adjourn the meeting?
Yeah. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
We have a motion to adjourn.
There is no motion yet. I didn't hear one. Mr. Baker, did you make a motion?
I did.
Okay, repeat your motion for me. I want it read into the record. What is the motion, Mr. Baker?
So that the Human Resources Committee meeting can begin.
We're ending.
Yeah,
We're ending. We're not beginning.
to end this meeting. So
At this time, it's nicely printed at the bottom, and
But
here
Jenny
it
read
is.
that.
I read that. I
Okay.
read that.
Go ahead. Let me be quiet.
They were just waiting for you to vote yeah, that's all.
Yes, let me be
Okay.
quiet. Mr. Baker, I'm sorry. Go ahead. Okay, Dr. Henson.
All in favor of this motion, respond by saying aye.
Aye. Let us adjourn.
All opposed? Vote is 3-0.
If Daffy Duck didn't show up tonight, I'm sorry, I apologize. As a board member, I should not come out like that. Dr. Henson, I apologize.
That's not
But this
I
is
expect
not
that from
correct,
people.
Mr. McQuillan. If he cannot carry a motion, he should not be chair of this committee. I would rather Mr. Baker, who's an engineer, would carry this committee.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
I'm not very familiar with that.
If I'm going to follow him, then he has to lead better. And I'm not trying to be rude and disrespectful, but it's proper etiquette for a meeting. Mr. Ramsey, you know, don't look at me so surprised.
He's ready to start his committee meeting when you're done, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Ramsey, you have the floor. Go right ahead.
I recognize the chair. I am calling the Committee on Human Resources to order. I declare there is a quorum of committee members present and note that the media has been given proper notice pursuant to the Freedom of Information Act. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion approves by a vote of 3-0. The only item on the agenda is the amendment of policy, Board Policy BA, second reading. Dr. Sturkey, you're recognized.
We did that. We got to do it again.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, Superintendent Dr. Dixon, and board members. Administration is requesting second reading approval of the changes to Policy BA Board Operations as presented. The policy was last revised in 2021.
And that's the
The policy is revised to change the style from a bulleted list to a number and lettered list. Other changes include revisions to the former language governing committees that now constitute 1J and 1K. And the proposed committees will now include Academics and Innovation, Finance and Human Resources, and Capital Projects.
What is the pleasure of the committee?
I move to approve the amendment to Board Policy BA, second reading.
Second. We now have a motion. We have a second. All those in favor respond by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed respond by saying no. The motion is approved by a vote of 3-0. At this time, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn and return to regular session.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second. All those in favor of returning to regular session respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed respond by saying nay. The motion is approved by a vote of 3-0. We can now return to regular session.
Thank you, Mr. Ramsey. The next items on the agenda are reports from the standing committees. First, a report from the Committee on Academics and Innovation. Chair Kathy Littleton,
Mr. Chairman, the Committee on Academics and Innovation met earlier this evening, and on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the Head Start Budget Expenditure Report for October 2022 and Head Start Credit Report for October 2022.
We have a recommendation from committee, so no second is required. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it by a vote of 9-0.
Also, on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the first reading of the South Carolina State Department of Education textbooks, which were approved by the Berkeley County School District Committee, caravans selected by the individual schools.
We have a recommendation from committee, so no second is required. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries by a vote of 9-0. Ms. Littleton, does that conclude your report?
That does conclude my report. Thank you.
Next is the Committee on Finance and Capital Planning. Mr. Henson, or Dr. Henson, you're recognized.
Next in the Committee on Finance and Capital Planning, Chairman. Mr. Chairman, the Committee on Finance and Capital Planning met earlier this evening. On recommendation of the committee, I move to approve an out-of-state travel as presented.
We have a recommendation from the committee, so no second is required. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
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 Mr. Henson?
Also, on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the Head Start incentive in the amount of $1,778 per Head Start staff to be paid in February 2023.
We have a recommendation from committee and no second is required. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it by a vote of 9-0.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Next is the Committee on Human Resources, Chairman Michael Ramsey.
Mr. Chairman, the Committee on Human Resources met earlier this evening, and on recommendation of the committee, I move to approve the second reading of amended Board Policy BA as presented.
We have a recommendation from committee, so no second is required. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it by a vote of 9-0.
Mr. Chairman, that concludes my report.
Thank you. The next agenda item is the superintendent's report. Dr. Dixon.
Good evening, Chair McQuillan, board members, principals, teachers, concerned and engaged citizens of this great community. I bring greetings to you all. I want to begin first by addressing the questions that have arisen regarding my current certifications. As confirmed and reflected on the South Carolina Department of Education public website, I do hold a superintendent certification. As evidenced by the South Carolina Department of Education Service and Leadership Fields Verification of Education Preparation Recommendation for certification form completed and submitted by South Carolina State University, my date of completion of all requirements of the Educator Preparation Program in superintendency was July 30th, 2013. As my requirements for certification had been complete for many years, I was unaware that this would become a matter of debate. I regret the time that many have invested questioning, investigating, and defending my qualifications to serve as superintendent due to outstanding paperwork. I appreciate and thank South Carolina State University's staff, their attention to this matter, and their collaboration to satisfy any outstanding documentation requirements. The experiences, the relationships, and the knowledge that I've gained from my education at the historic South Carolina State University, along with other institutions of higher education, have prepared me for this moment today. Additionally, it is important that I thank the South Carolina School Board Association, who conducted a thorough and professional superintendent search for BCSD in 2021, of which I was a candidate. And I appreciate the support from the professionals of the South Carolina School Board Association, and had a very positive and supportive experience as a candidate seeking a position as superintendent. As we continue our path forward, it is my hope that we can all focus on the real challenges and opportunities before us and stand in support and recognition of the achievements of all educators, professionals, and professionals within our organization. I also want to thank you and express my appreciation to the staff, the students, and community members who have been so welcoming these past few weeks. I have had the opportunity to visit schools, participate in school and community events, meet with the principals, district staff, and members of our local media. And the energy at these schools has been very high as they are all looking forward to our upcoming break. I will continue visiting our schools and participating in community events so that I can receive direct feedback from our staff, students, parents, and community as we work together to ensure the best outcomes for our students. A few items of note from the past 3 weeks are as follows. On Monday, November 21st, I had the honor to speak at the Miracle League ribbon cutting on behalf of the district. As I have previously shared, I grew up the son of educators and public servants. My mother was a special education teacher, and her passion and love for students helped inspire my own pursuit of a career as a special education teacher. I am so grateful to be a part of a community and district that made this recreation center a reality. I look forward to supporting and cheering for our students in the Miracle League this spring. That same evening, I also had the opportunity to address the 29453 community neighborhood watch at Jamestown Baptist Family Life Center. The members of the community had great questions regarding equity for rural education, curriculum updates, on board resolutions, teacher retention, and support of teachers as retirees. I was able to provide them with their answers to their questions and meet with them others individually afterwards. I want to personally thank Mrs. Brown and the leadership team of the 29453 Neighborhood Watch for their hospitality, and I look forward to future events. I also attended and was welcomed at the Charleston District of the 7th Episcopal AME Conference Planning Meeting on December 3rd, 2022. I serve as the church school superintendent, our Christian education director, and I'm also a Sunday school teacher for the junior class at my local AME church, and I recognize the important role our faith-based organizations play in supporting the greater community. Over the next few weeks, I look forward to participating in more events, including community and athletic events. As far as school events, I've had great opportunities to visit Goose Creek High School, their great performance of The Wizard of Oz. I attended this performance at Goose Creek High, and it was true evidence of the commitment to the arts that Goose Creek High and the BCA and the feeder schools collaboratively have. The hours our teachers spent preparing students of all ages for their performance cannot be ignored. Congratulations to that staff and the students from, I think they were third graders, up to some of the students that we saw in the Creekapella on a job well done. I also attended the Westview Middle School Bands, led by Mr. Ronnie Ward, the amazing Mr. Ronnie Ward. They put on a wonderful winter musical performance. The concert was held at Stratford High School, and it was standing room only. If you have not been able to attend one of the many fine arts performances in Berkeley County Schools, I recommend you do so, as you will never be disappointed. And you can visit our school websites for future dates and times of any upcoming events. Also, we had a little fun together at the aquarium unveiling the new logo, the seal, and the mascot for the Carolyn Lewis School. We received wonderful creative assistance from the divers and the staff at the aquarium in revealing the mascot as the loggerhead turtle. I have great respect for the professionals at the South Carolina Aquarium and the educator and advocacy work they do. I look forward to the successful development of the partnership between the Carolyn Lewis School and the South Carolina Aquarium. So now we can all say, go Loggerheads. Our Fox Bank, today at Fox Bank Elementary, I was in attendance at the Fox Bank Elementary Holiday Luncheon. I participated in their reindeer games with the highly energetic Boykin staff and found myself on stage giving not the best, but a rendition of a classic holiday song. And this was a one-time musical performance, so I apologize to those who missed it. I have visited more than 10 schools so far and will continue my visits through this week and into the new year. I look forward tomorrow spending a lot of time in the Goose Creek area visiting their schools. And the intent of my visits so far have focused on visiting our special education classrooms, cafeterias, meeting with our librarians, our bus lots and our bus officers, special programming, and asking the principals could they highlight one of instructional engagement, one of their instructional highlights within their classrooms. I look forward to continuing these high-level school engagement events and partnering with our principals, our teachers, and all staff to support students in their learning. We also hosted a productive principals meeting where I was able to recognize principals individually for the gift they are to their staff, their schools, and this district. Additionally, I had my first meeting with the Superintendent's Advisory Committee and look forward to continuing the work they have started to support staff across the district. Finally, I would like to thank my cabinet and the administrative teams for setting up and creating, organizing the principals meeting, and for remaining focused these past few weeks on our core business of teaching and learning. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you for what you do to serve our district during productive and challenging times. In conclusion, it is important that we recognize that we are all living in an unprecedented time. Each day, we're faced with challenges and situations that seem unbelievable or impossible within our homes, within our families, within ourselves, our communities, our nation, and our district. These obstacles definitely leave us challenged. I accepted this position in the same kind of unprecedented circumstances, which leaves me with the responsibility to ensure an unprecedented commitment on your behalf and on the behalf of the 38,000 plus students in Berkeley County School District. I understand that your emotions are high and everyone is looking for answers. And I know that change is often difficult to digest and to process. However, I am committed to working together and to move forward because our students need us. Our core business has not changed, and our focus will remain on teaching and learning. Together, we can create a school system where students thrive, our principals, teachers, and staff are proud to work, our parents are excited to share with us their most precious gifts, and our community is proud to call their district. It will not be easy, but I am hopeful for the future and our work together. And so, again, thank you, board members, for this opportunity to serve you and serve our community in this district that I call home. Mr. Chair, that concludes my report this evening.
Thank you, sir. Are you going to go to?
The next item, it is the recommendation of the administration to amend the 2022-2023 instructional calendar to include January 2nd, 2023 as a paid holiday in observance of New Year's Day.
Move to approve.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? I'd just like to say thank you for doing that. I think the calendar was amended previously, and we have New Year's being recognized as a holiday, but then for whatever reason, it was taken off, and so I appreciate you looking into that and offering that as a paid holiday. And I think originally it was a teacher workday?
Yes.
And is there an exception if teachers still plan to work?
Yes, if certified teachers in the classroom still want to work, the administrative and our administration is going to communicate with the principals that they can provide that access to those rooms for their teachers.
Okay. Thank you. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it by a vote of 9-0. The next agenda items are C and D.
All right. So for C and D combined, the board granted me the authority to appoint and hire a deputy superintendent. And since I accepted this job in the middle of a school year, and without much time to prepare or plan for a transition, I needed to hire someone quickly, and it needed to be someone I completely trusted and whom I knew was capable of doing the job. For this reason, I selected Dr. Karen Whitley as the deputy superintendent, and she has a commitment and a deep sense of service to this district for over 4 decades. In my experience with Dr. Whitley has supported me as a teacher, as a collaborative thought partner, and I've witnessed her humble and servant leadership. She will work collaboratively in this role to build consensus among teams while holding our core business of teaching and learning at the forefront of all discussions, plans, and actions. Also, at this time, no reorganization has occurred. However, I plan to do some reorganization to better align and/or balance duties, responsibilities in an equitable and efficient manner that supports more effective teaching and learning. We haven't finalized any of those plans or decisions, but we hope to have some decisions soon.
Thank you, sir. The next item is the board chair update.
Excuse me, I'd like to, I was going to ask some questions because the board chair indicated that Dr. Dixon would be agreeable to answering and have some discussions about the appointment of Dr. Whitley as the deputy superintendent. So.
You're recognized, Mr. Barrett.
Thank you very much. Dr. Dixon, on November 21st, you were quoted in a press release as saying, quote, "The deputy has been appointed, and I communicated this to the board." When did you communicate this to the board? Because I don't have any recollection or knowledge of being communicated with when you made this appointment.
The board chair.
Yeah, I communicated to the board chair, to Mr. McQuillan.
Okay, so that constitutes notifying the board?
Yes.
I don't think so.
Board chair.
I was not noticed. I'm a member in good standing. There's some other questions.
Okay.
Dr. Dixon, the board authorized you to hire a deputy superintendent without prior
Mr.
board
Barrow,
approval.
one second. When Mr. Dixon texted you to ask if you could meet with him, you said, "I refuse to meet with you because I know your agenda." So don't act like you weren't told stuff when you refused to meet with the man, okay? Let's be honest here.
You're mistaken, Mr. McQuillan. I did make that comment, but I am not fabricating what is the truth. I was not notified that Dr. Whitley was appointed deputy superintendent until a press release or something on Facebook indicating that. So
I was not
let's get
notified
down to
either.
brass
I
tacks.
was not notified.
So good. Then that means that not very many of us knew what the heck was going on. Now, Dr. Dixon, the board authorized you to hire the deputy superintendent without prior board approval. What they did not do was authorize you to circumvent the hiring practices of Board Policy G, which you have done because you did not post this, you did not advertise this position, and it was not noticed. None of this is proper. I'd like to know what, if any, hiring practices you took to hire the most qualified candidate as deputy superintendent.
Yes, I was given the opportunity to appoint and hire the deputy superintendent.
You were not authorized to violate board policy because you were authorized to hire, but it did not say to circumvent the hiring practices of the district, which means to advertise for and make sure that you had the proper candidates for that position.
Mr.
Now,
Barrow, when you were chair and
moving
Deion
on,
Jackson was superintendent, did you?
Mr. Chairman, are you interrupting my time?
I want to ask you some questions.
You may speak after I finish. You're not interrupting
I won't
me.
interrupt you. I'm sorry.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So, Dr. Dixon, when did you discuss the deputy superintendent position with Dr. Whitley?
Well, after I was hired.
Pardon me?
After I was hired.
Okay, so the next day, did you and Dr. Whitley attend a cabinet meeting at MNRIV at 12 noon together?
Yes.
Pardon me?
Yes, that was the day I
Yes,
was
you
hired.
did. So she was not hired at that time, but yes, she attended a cabinet level meeting with you?
No, we made the recommendation at that time.
You did?
Yes.
Okay. The public needs to know these facts, ladies and gentlemen. So let me ask another question, Dr. Dixon. When did you actually decide that you were going to hire Dr. Whitley? Was it before you were hired or after?
There was no decision on when I decided that, sir. Well, I did that after I was hired. So as you
The
know,
last and final question that I have is, does Dr. Whitley have a contract?
no, Dr. Whitley does not have a contract. She did not.
Okay, so what are the terms of her employment?
Yes, she's employed for the year. She agreed to a salary that is considerably less than a deputy superintendent, but comparable to our cabinet members. She'll be working.
So is
at
there a
will.
document certifying that? Is there a document that you have executed with her?
Yes, we've gone through the HR proceedings for that.
You're going to?
We are going through the HR proceedings.
Okay, so she doesn't have a contract, but you've negotiated with her the details of the contract. So when is that contract going to be executed?
So we'll work with HR and our legal counsel to share that information with you.
I think that answers my questions and hopefully some of the questions of the people in the audience.
Mr. Barrow, I have some questions for you.
Shoot.
When you were the chairperson and Mr. Jackson was superintendent, was the principal position advertised at the Carolyn Lewis School for your friend, Miss Sissy?
For my what?
For the Carolyn Lewis School, was that principalship advertised, yes or no?
Let me say that absolutely every position that was filled under my leadership was advertised. There were interviews made and recommendations to this board. Unlike this unfettered authority that this board with these 6 individuals gave to Dr. Dixon without the consent of the other board members. That's exactly what we've done. We followed policy and protocol.
Was the diversity position, was Ms. Glenda Levine interviewed, or was that position advertised?
I was not the board chair at that time. I'm not sure.
What about?
When I was the board chair, we followed protocol and policy every time there was a position open. And you can document that by looking it up.
So you believe that the principalship at Carolyn Lewis was advertised?
To my recollection, it was advertised, yes.
I'm pretty sure it was not, sir.
All right, was I the board chair at the time?
Yes, sir, you were.
Okay, well, then maybe I'm mistaken, but I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so.
What about when Katie Tanner was appointed the chief by Dion?
Katie Tanner was appointed what?
The chief public information officer.
I had no knowledge of that. She was public information officer when I became board chair.
Okay.
I had no knowledge of that. Had nothing to do with that. Is this a witch hunt on your part to try to denigrate me?
I'm just saying, I've got a list of about...
No, I'm not going to tolerate it. Now, you can look it up. You can ask Katie Tanner herself. She was a public information officer when I became the board chair. I had nothing to do with that.
I'm just saying you're complaining about the hiring practice because they weren't advertised.
And they were factual. You are not factual.
Are you going to let me finish or are you going to interrupt?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. What I was saying is you're complaining that the position wasn't advertised. I got a list here of about 6 positions that weren't advertised when you were chairperson.
Okay, so you're saying I was chairperson
It's a
when Ms.
two-way
Tanner,
street.
when Ms. Tanner was hired? That's a bald-faced lie.
No, I'm talking about when Miss Sissy Davis was.
No, you indicated also Katie Tanner, did you not? Did you not just accuse me of being the board chair
I
and
believe Katie
unfettered
Tanner was
practices?
appointed by Superintendent Jackson without that position being advertised.
No, you're talking about, I was not the board chair when Katie Tanner was hired. She was here. She'll tell you in front of all these people. There she is right there. Ask her.
What about Dr. Dixon when he was appointed as chief academic officer? Was that position advertised or was there an interview for his prior position at the district?
I guess it was.
Was that when you were chair?
No. Dr. Ingram was the superintendent, and Ms. Wofford was the board chair at the time Dr. Dixon became that position. So go ahead and make a fool of yourself.
I'm not making a fool. I'm just saying under various administrations, there have been multiple people that have been appointed.
Then get your facts straight.
Without it being advertised.
Get your facts straight.
Get yours. Miss Sissy Davis was appointed without it being advertised when you were chair.
What's that?
Yes.
Who?
Sissy Davis at Carolyn Lewis School.
Okay, maybe one of those, but I don't recall her not being, that position not being advertised. You put out 3 more scenarios that are absolutely patently false. Patently false.
I'm not saying you're chair. I'm mistaken on that. I'm saying that those were people that are appointed without positions being advertised.
Well,
so let's be fair here.
Well, continue your tirade. I'll answer your little questions.
I'm not on tirade. I'm done with mine if you're done with yours, sir.
Well, I'm done with mine, but I'm going to stipulate right now that most of what you just said is malarkey because, and Katie Tanner's right there. She can tell you, and, all of this, what I have is factual information. I have done my research. I have talked to the news media. They have confirmed, they have fact-checked what I have said, and nobody can throw a shade on what I said prior to tonight.
Are you done, Mr. Barrow?
Absolutely. Thank you, sir.
All right, next is a board chair report. I'll first remind board members that the South Carolina School Board Association Annual Convention is February 17th through the 19th in Hilton Head. I know that I don't believe this is the new board member training, but if you would like to attend this one, please let Lacey know. And before we adjourn, we have got to focus on the ultimate mission, as Mr. Dixon mentioned. I know, Ms. Bradley, you were getting frustrated with Mr. Henson. People are getting frustrated with me. I'm new to the chair. This is my second meeting as chair. I'd ask that y'all be gracious with us. Let's work together for the benefit of our children and teachers. We are better than this. We are. At this time, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, please respond by saying aye. Aye. We are now adjourned.